All right, let's go ahead and get started. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to 1 Million Cups. I actually got a response. That was awesome. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Yeah, I love that. Welcome to 1 Million Cups. If you haven't been here before, this is an awesome community of entrepreneurs coming together to support other entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial events and activities here in Kansas City and beyond now. I want to give a shout out real quick before I forget that St. Louis 1 Million Cups just came online today, which is a huge, we really had kind of the press blowing up about that. And then they are actually expecting, which is awesome for us, for a first-time event, they're expecting somewhere between 30 to 50 people for their first event, which is awesome. Show of hands, who's here for the first time? Great, great. We're back in K-Labs. Yeah, you tried to clap, thanks. We're back in K-Labs, which we're excited. We love the intimacy of this environment. I want to real quickly just set some ground rules. First off, my name's George Brooks. I am actually an entrepreneur here in Kansas City. I do not work for Kauffman. I'll say it again, I do not work for Kauffman because I think a lot of people think that up here that we do. We're actually entrepreneurs that are passionate about this community. So we're up here volunteering our time to bring you guys together and really try to facilitate this group growing and becoming more effective and forming more effective relationships and so on and so forth. So myself, John McGovern, Mike Craig are the community leaders here. And if you have any questions, if you're interested in presenting, please catch us and we'll point you in the right direction. Ground rules. We are extremely thankful that Kauffman lets us use this space. So we want to just, that really is something to clap for. But to that point, we want to be really respectful of their environment. So as much as possible when you guys leave, pick up your cups, put your chairs back in, and all that good stuff that we know we should do, but we often forget because we're trying to connect to other people. So ground rules are done. Overflow. We actually, on average, are having somewhere between 220 to we've had upwards of 280 people coming. We'll see what we have today. This space technically can only handle 200. So we are looking at, there will be an overflow space. So if we continue to meet in K-Labs, if you continue to come, which we hope you do, keep in mind to come a little early if you want to get a seat here. Otherwise, you may end up in another room watching a live feed of everyone else having fun in this room. What else? Okay, I think let's get on with it. One other thing real quickly, I do want to mention Big Kansas City is coming, and we'll make an announcement during the break. If you haven't got a chance, definitely go check out bigkansascity.co. It actually is going to land on a Wednesday, so we're trying to figure out how to work with them on that event. So that is in March 25th. Question? Brooks. Brooks. Yes, thank you. Code for America. Who here has heard for Code for America? Great. So I got a chance to have lunch with these guys the other day. So excited they're in Kansas City right now. The three of them are part of the new fellowship program that is going on inside of Code for America. And I could explain it, but they can do a lot better job. So I want to welcome, I'm going to say it wrong. It's not Ariel, it's Ariel, and I always do it wrong. Ariel, Allison, and Andrew to present Code for America. Give them a round of applause.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for having us. I'm Ariel Kennan. I'm a designer who really creates experiences with technology and makes how people use and engage with the technology. And I most recently have been working and living in New York City.
Good morning, 1 Million Cups. I'm Andrew Hyder. I'm an urban planner and a software engineer.
Morning, everyone. I'm Allison Jones. I most recently lived in Boulder, Colorado. I'm originally from South Dakota. And my background is in the nonprofit field, and I've been learning web development over the last year.
So we are all fellows with Code for America. We're a nonprofit based out in San Francisco. We are also a startup. We're only 3 years old, and we're growing very rapidly. So we really come in and collaborate with local governments and their local communities to create new civic solutions and really figure out how governments can be more efficient, engage their citizens better. So we're lucky enough to be here in Kansas City. But we also want to tell you about a few of our other programs. So we are the fellowship. We're kind of at the core of the technology in the cities and the communities. We also have an accelerator and an incubator. The incubator was really a response to fellowship teams growing businesses coming out of their fellowship class, which is really exciting. And the accelerator is to help businesses along who are working in the civic technology sphere already. We want to support companies who are growing up in that realm as well. We also have what's called the peer network, which helps connect local governments. We want the thought leaders in governments to be connected to each other. And we also have a volunteer brigade, which we will tell you more about, which we know everyone can't give a year of service to be a fellow. We want also people to volunteer. So some of the outcomes we believe in, we always say that the technology is actually the easy part. It's some of the other changes that we try to affect that are a little bit harder. So we're really trying to evolve the process of government. We want governments to be more efficient. We want them to use technology better. We want them to use people better. We really want to engage citizens in solving civic issues. We are the users of the government, and we need to use it better. We also want to build applications with open data. KCMO is well on their way to that. They launched their open data portal, which is really exciting, and we're here to just help push that along. And we also want to, like I said, with the peer network, connect governments together.
And all of those outcomes are really so much wood behind the spear point of our apps that we develop through the fellowship. These are a couple examples. A few years ago, the fellows in Boston were stuck inside a snowstorm. They threw together an app for one weekend to help people volunteer to plow out hydrants. It has now been redeployed in 14 cities, a bunch of cities all around the country and other countries. It's in Honolulu to do tsunami sirens. It's just a simple idea, but it spread really easy. Honolulu Answers, the fellows through a write-a-thon to get people to come together to write an FAQ for the most common questions on the government website, the city's website. Text is In is helping Philadelphia engage with citizens through text messaging. And Blight Status did the really difficult job of connecting all the different property data after Katrina in New Orleans to make it really easy to see what's going on with blighted properties. You can find out more about other apps that fellows have built on our webpage at /projects.
Thank you. And so the three of us are participating in the fellowship program, which is an 11-month process that we just started in January. I feel very fortunate to be part of this larger group of 28 amazing individuals who are in our fellowship class who come from a diverse range of backgrounds and skill sets. We're called Code for America, but we're not all coders. We have developers on the team, designers, project managers, people from the public policy world and nonprofit backgrounds. And out of this group of 28, we've broken into smaller teams of 3 to 4 people that work in a partner community. And here's our list of partner communities for 2013. And cities have to apply to be part of Code for America as well. It's a fairly selective application process. And we feel fortunate to be working with Kansas City, both Kansas City, Missouri and Kansas City, Kansas. And we're here to work with both governments and the community to find ways to leverage technology to help foster economic development and entrepreneurship. And so we started our program in January. We had a month of training in San Francisco. Now we're here for the month of February to do research and meet with as many people as we can. We've already had a lot of meetings and interviews with people in both city halls. We're attending a lot of events and meeting with community groups. We'll go back to San Francisco in March, where we'll start to distill that information and go through an ideation process to decide where are the opportunities where we can build a project. And we'll come back here in April with our first prototype, and we'll test that, and then we'll go through a fairly rapid iteration phase over the summer with the goal of launching our project in the fall. And I want to thank both mayors and the mayor's offices for bringing us here and being so innovative and collaborative. And we also want to thank our community sponsors, the Kauffman Foundation, the Hall Family Foundation, Cerner, and Google. And also want to give a shout out to our friends at Neighborly who helped get this whole party started. So, thanks.
All right, so we all quit our jobs. We moved away from our families to go live in San Francisco to give a year of service. And now I have an ask of you all. We want you guys to become better citizens as well, and we're going to give you a couple ways to do it. We're just starting the volunteer brigade. It's an opportunity for you to join up with other members of the community, tech any kind of skills that you have, and engage with the government. Wiki KC is a local Kansas City-based wiki that people are starting to add stories about their neighborhoods and information that is local. It's written by us, for us. And announcing today, we would please like you to save the date, February 23rd, for our Code Across America event.
So there's a lot of great stuff going on in Kansas City, and we're seeing a lot of monthly hackathons, thought leadership, weekly events like this. And we really want to start launching that on a monthly basis, that people come together, talk about big ideas, and make big things for this city. So we're kicking it off with Code Across America. It is our national event, so every Code for America city will be hosting an event that day. And here in Kansas City, we are really hosting what will be the launch of these monthly events. So we're hoping that the working groups who would like to work on hacking the gigabit city, which is at the end of March 22nd and 24th, will come together, and we're putting together a series of tracks. So it'll be arts, entrepreneurship, education. We'll be leading a civic tech track as well. So we'll have more information about that, but please save the date. We're working on a location and some of the details right now. But we will be continuing to publish more information, so you can always reach all three of us at Kansas City at codeforamerica.org. You can find us on Twitter, which are also on the wall. And we also have a Tumblr, cfakc.tumblr.com, where we are trying to post who we're meeting with, kind of some big ideas that we're seeing, events that we go to, and also really collect the voice of this community as you all talk about all of the great stuff that's going on here and that we're also starting to contribute to. So it's a good way to keep track of us while we're here this month, and then we will continue to publish on that as we go back. So check that out in the next couple days for more info about Code Across.
Great, thank you guys. I want to kick it off real quick and just get a little bit more of the backstory from you guys of what you were doing a little bit before you joined Code for America, and what that process looked like getting a part of the team. And then second part of that question, and then I'll open it up to the room, is what are you seeing kind of in this first week of being in Kansas City?
I'll go ahead and go first. So I am really an interaction and experience designer. I worked in New York City and went to school there, and I've always really worked at kind of the intersection of design plus technology plus the built environment and public space. I used to make things for museums and huge LED signs, and I did a mobile app for the National Mall in Washington, D.C. And then a couple years ago, I worked on designing a small city in China, which was an amazing project. It's kind of a dream designer project, but it got me really interested in how cities work. And it's one thing to work in the public or the private sector and work on cities, and it's another thing to be in the public sector and work with the government. And I was really curious how the government works. So when I found Code for America, it was kind of the perfect confluence of all of those ideas together. So I'm really here to learn about cities and governments and how it all comes together. And in terms of, I think maybe we should do our stories, and then we will answer the next part.
So I'm Andrew Hyder, grew up in Minneapolis, went to school for urban planning, and I designed dozens of neighborhood parks and schoolyards and bicycle lanes in low-income communities throughout the Bay Area in California. And it was like doing one park at a time. So I started to build tools to help me and the nonprofit I was working with scale up a little bit. And it was actually a really interesting field to work in, so I taught myself to code, got hired by a startup, and I'm now a professional software engineer hoping to help millions of planners design millions of parks and save the world.
And I'm Allison Jones. When I graduated from college, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do necessarily, but I joined the AmeriCorps program, and I thought it would just be 1 year of service, and then I'd go to grad school or get my life figured out after that. But that year of service really inspired me to continue working with communities and working with volunteers. And so I spent about the last 10 years working in the nonprofit field, mostly coordinating volunteer projects and service learning events. And over the last, it's been an evolution just to see how technology has changed the work that we did. And especially, the last position I had was working with Habitat for Humanity International, coordinating short-term volunteer trips, both within the U.S. and abroad. and just got more interested in how technology was a tool that we use to do our work. And last year, I was living in Boulder, Colorado, where there's a very strong startup scene and technology scene, and I got interested in that more, and I ended up taking a class over the summer. It was one of these programs designed for beginners with no tech experience, and I was learning the basics of web development, Ruby on Rails, and some front-end work, and then I was doing some web development over the fall up until I came here. When I learned about Code for America, for me, I thought it was a good fit, combining my background working with nonprofits and community groups with my newfound technology skills. And just in general, I got it. So we've only been here just over a week, maybe 10 days, and we've had a bunch of incredible meetings, met wonderful people so far. I think just in general, the thing that struck me the most is just the amount of excitement in this community around entrepreneurship, around technology, and just, I know that's not a very specific answer to your question, but just the level of engagement the community has and interest in being collaborative and innovative has been really exciting. Anything else to add?
1 million cups.
Yeah.
I mean, just finding an event like this is really amazing to hear the story, but a couple of years ago, it was just a dozen people, and now it's all of you wonderful folks making something really important here in Kansas City. It was really, really, really cool to find. So we're here to help try and amplify this type of organization and organizing. So.
I'd also add that in both of the local governments, we're really finding open minds and willingness to try out new ideas. And Code for America sometimes has to come in and push that along in much stronger ways than we've had to. So we're here just kind of amplifying, we're pushing the wave. We're a couple more bodies and a couple more minds to help bring those tools, but the openness is already there. So great things to come. Jace?
They give you sort of license over what you want to focus on?
Just to repeat that was, I think it's do the governments give us license to what we want to focus on?
And if so, what are you thinking about focusing on while you're here?
And if so, what are we thinking of focusing on?
So we were invited out here by both Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City, Missouri, as well as our amazing funders. And there was a pretty broad scope of economic development. It was in other cities around the country, they're focusing on different issues. Some of them are really broad, some are more narrow. And economic development is a pretty broad issue as well. But once we've started talking to many of the amazing nonprofits and entrepreneurs out here, the way that government and technology and economic development all sort of relate together, it's helped us funnel it down some. We definitely don't want to, this is our second week here, we don't want to start saying out specific ideas for an app since we're in the middle of like a research phase. We don't want to steer the direction too much. But yeah, definitely that intersection of where we can help ease doing business through technology with the government to make your lives easier, to make it easier to start companies. It's like the angle that it's taking through our conversations so far. That's one of many angles, actually. There's a bunch of themes emerging, but it's very interesting.
I would also add we're kind of finding stuff that maybe we didn't know that we would find that relates. Things like education, like starting further down in the pipeline on how do you spark economic development and entrepreneurship. And if you give kids technology skills and entrepreneurship skills early on, maybe you're actually growing the skill base that can support all of the great companies. So sometimes kind of turning it on its head. So we're also really eager to hear ideas from all of you because you are experts and you're all locals and we are not.
You had mentioned that city leaders are more open to change, but that you still find you need to push the wave a little bit. Could you give a couple of examples of how you push the wave?
Sure. Some of it is encouragement. There's really good stuff going on here, and part of it's saying, "Hey, that's really cool. Oh, you built a prototype of a project using an iPad internally inside your government. Awesome. You opened an open data portal. Awesome. You're putting out all of your mapping data. awesome. Like just saying this is great. And also we have skills that we can bring in that the governments run very lean. So how can we be a few more hands that can help build some stuff, create some new ideas, talking to people? One of the biggest things we can do here is connect people. We're realizing that we're getting to meet everyone and anyone, and a lot of people don't even know about each other. It's like you good group over here is doing something great, and you group over here is doing something great, but you don't know about each other. So that we can really help make those connections. And I think 1 Million Cups is trying to do that too, but we're trying to do it on even a broader scale since we're working in a couple different theme areas as well.
And I would just add to that another way we're trying to build on that momentum is to involve citizens. That's something we have with our volunteer brigade program. And an example which Andrew talked about a little bit was last year in Honolulu. They had a project where they brought in the community to help write the content for the answers that people are looking for when they go to their government's website. So just a way for people to be engaged and to open those communication channels is something we're trying to foster as well.
I know that you've only been at Code for America for a month, but where do you think they will be in, say, 10 years? What's the goal, long-term goal for Code for America?
It's a good question. I'll just repeat it. Just asking that about Code for America and where the organization plans to be in the future, long-term goals. And that's a good question. We're operating very much like it's still a startup, so we're trying to be iterative. Even over the last year, a lot of these programs have been developing. We're the third round of fellows, and so a lot of things are still growing and building momentum, but there's a lot of possibility.
So it's a young organization that keeps iterating on itself. There was, as we learned in one of the first years, that sometimes the fellows would come in and make something cool, and then they would leave, and it would be really hard to maintain this piece of software that was really useful for that time. So we've been working diligently to make sure that type of thing doesn't happen. But one of those efforts is organizationally is this brigade idea, an actual organized volunteer force where people are engaged with the government in a way that they can help change the government and that they can take ownership of these pieces of software that make the city a better place to live in and easier to live in, so that technology, which has a short lifespan, can actually live beyond just our impact here. And it becomes ownership of people who live in their own city. So that's one of the ways.
I also say that everything we build we try to make it reusable, and really believe governments shouldn't be building multiples of the same thing. So you want a transit app and City Next Door needs a transit app. There should be one, it should be open, it should be reusable, it should be shareable. And so that's another way that as we continue to build more things, we're just putting more things out to the world that the government can continue to use, and many governments can use. We'll let him go, and then we'll give Jace the floor.
I work with Truman Medical Center. I run a business. It's a mobile market. It's a 40-foot bus, and we turn into a grocery store on wheels, essentially. We go around to different parts of the city, mainly in the urban core, selling fresh fruits and vegetables to a lot of those folks. And I was just curious if you all would be willing to work with something that's in food, or if you all are interested, I'd love to talk more about it.
We would love to meet with you. The question was about at Truman Medical Center, there's a mobile grocery store on a bus, right? Bringing fresh fruit and vegetables into low-income areas. Amazing program, really a much-needed program. We would love to meet with you. We also have a fellowship team in San Mateo County in California who is working on food benefits. So we'd love to connect you to them as well.
And also the structure of our time here is while we're in town, we want to achieve a couple quick examples to encourage people to get involved and to show why open data and the civic technology is actually important. So we want to do a couple quick projects while we're here. So anything in mind for small, turning on an open source app that just needs a certain data set or something like that. And then when we're back in March, we're going to be developing one large, big project that has a really large impact on Kansas City and will be built in open source ways so that any city around the country can turn it on. So quick ideas and larger, challenging ideas where we can help change the world.
So you've mentioned you're definitely wanting ideas from, that'll be easier. So you're wanting ideas from the community, and I think this is something we talked about when we had lunch the other day was the challenge is you're only here for a month. And there's 200-ish people in this room, and I'm sure all of them have an idea for a way to make our city better. What's the best way that we as a community can engage with you and really, share those ideas? I know it sounds like with the Tumblr, you're going to be sharing out things and we can comment back on that. I'm setting up a problem I already know because we talked about it. Or if maybe that's an ask as well, is what's a tool or suggestion of a tool that could be used to collaborate in some way that we can give you that, because we all know that, or I know from talking to you that you don't have time to sit down with all of us. Talking to that a little bit.
So one thing we asked George for when we had lunch with him the other day was, where are all of you talking to each other? We don't want to create another online platform for you to go to and submit ideas to. We want to go where you guys are already talking and just join in and be part of that discussion. So if you guys have suggestions on where we should join in that discussion, please email us or tweet at one of us, and we will definitely come there and ask you questions. Jace, did you have another question for us?
Yeah.
Why don't you hand him the mic?
So the Code for America program has captured everybody's imaginations in the civic tech world, and we all kind of look to you as sort of a model of how this stuff should work, and you're definitely developing it and making huge waves in it. And one of the most exciting things for me was imagining the residual outcome of building up programs over time. So several host cities per year over several years, and in a decade, you might not still have the fellowship program, but you'll have a huge library of open source software that anyone can contribute to and remix and implement in their own community. And you talked a little bit about that, and I was hoping you could tell us more about that specifically, and the Civic Commons and what people here can do and where they can go to look for those residual outcomes.
So that's a great point. And something that we're developing at Code for America is this peer network. And that's a place for governments to be able to share information and resources. And we also have all of our open source code is on GitHub that anyone can check out. And we're trying to build up these networks and have examples. A good place is, it's not on there anymore, but our codeforamerica.org/projects page, so some examples of what has already been built. But trying to make those connections is something else we're trying to work on too, to make sure all that stuff is open and available for folks. Anything else to add?
Yeah. So you brought up civic technology, and it's a lot bigger than just Code for America. It's kind of a new movement, if you will. Maybe some of the first really visible parts of it were GTFS, the General Transit Feed Specification out of Portland a couple years ago. And that was sort of the first wave of people like us just building apps upon civic data. And it's when it became really popular. And so government has, hundreds of different interactions with people in different ways. And open source community built software has really helped solve like 7 or 8 of those. And even those 7 or 8 could be made better. But so there's this really big opportunity to improve the way in which we get to interact with our government through technology, be it through beautiful interfaces or much easier processes. So it's the beginning of this movement. And so as movements go, there's this enormous opportunity for us to join in, and whatever we do right now can help cities around the country, if not the world.
If you all go to brigade.codeforamerica.org, you can create a Brigade login and account. There's actually a few people already registered in Kansas City. So please sign up, and that movement is really going to be starting. And we want all of you, with all of your business expertise as well, to be involved in the Brigade and really, as we say, become better citizens.
Is there anything else that the philanthropic or the corporate support community can do to help you guys? Are there still, I know you mentioned some of the sponsors earlier, are there still some sponsorships available? And is there anything else maybe that's not just a monetary gift that either the philanthropic or the corporate community could help you with?
We are still looking for community partners. We would love to see people join on and help support it. We are funded both by the local governments and our local community sponsors, so we are still looking for just a little bit more funding there. We can also fund on a national level. And we're also starting, you guys have great companies here and really great tech skills. We want them to be brigade members, and we would love to see some kind of give back time, so 5 or 10% give back time. Come be brigade members on part of your company time wouldn't be really great too. We're also looking to host events, get sponsorship for pieces like that. If there's interest in that, you can talk to us, and you can also talk to Luke Norris, who's sitting back there. Kansas City is lucky enough now to have a full-time Code for America staff member, and he is one of our business development team members, and he's a local Kansas Citian.
Thank you very much, everybody. Give these guys a round of applause. All right, well, I do encourage you guys, reach out to these people, tweet at them, get some good ideas into their think tank. They're doing some really great stuff and need the community to get behind them. Like they mentioned during their presentation, they are working on what they're going to be developing for Kansas City. So it's really a great opportunity for us as a community to have a say. So encourage you guys to do that. Also, Jeff with Silicon Prairie News, if you want to come up here, he's got an announcement for Big Kansas City.
Hey, good morning. I'm Jeff Slobotsky with Silicon Prairie News. Thank you, John Robinson. One clap there. 2 claps maybe online. We'll see. Dusty Davidson is back. Dusty, raise your hand real quick. My business partner and friend from Omaha. And then Reagan Carzales, who's not here, who's a Kansas City community builder. She is somewhere in the back as well. So anyway, real quick announcement. First of all, Big Kansas City, March 26th through 28th. So a lot of you guys have already bought tickets. Super excited about that. We've got a handful of speakers that we're still going to announce, I think later today. So really looking forward to that. I want to give a special thanks to George and his team at Kremlab, and if you guys can thank them as well for the site design. Yeah, give them a clap, please. He and his team have really put the identity together, and that's what we're saying. This isn't Big Omaha in Kansas City. This isn't the Iowa event in Kansas City. This is like Kansas City's unique event, and so that's what we're excited about. And having George and his team kind of dedicated to that is something we're grateful for. So get the tickets if you haven't already. They are selling quick, and again, we're putting together some additional details in terms of the events and the things that we're going to do around it. Jen Palka from Code for America. So your guys' cohort and boss is going to be in, so we're excited about that as well. So that's all I've got. Real quick, good to see everyone, and hope to see you at Big Kansas City here soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. Can you hear this mic in the back? Is it doing okay? Thumbs up, thumbs down, anybody? Thumbs up, all right. Great. Well, up next we have Rawxies. This is a great story that I became aware of a few weeks ago. With Callie England. She is working on her food product, which I'm going to let her explain because she's going to do a much better job. But she actually took this business and pursued it a little bit in California and has come back to Kansas City to develop out actually the business structure and getting everything going. So the story that we have going is really awesome, and I'm really excited to turn her loose as soon as we get her computer and presentation and up and ready to go. But Callie, do you have a mic? Do you want to get her a mic? But Callie, while we're getting that set up, do you want to give us a little bit of the backstory of how you've come about coming back to Kansas City?
Yeah, I mean, I'll speak upon it and here
later
too, so I won't reiterate. But I graduated from the Kansas City Art Institute. I worked as a full-time creative director here in Kansas City. In my spare time, started a blog, started a food product, and that's kind of what this story is about, and I'll kind of speak more on that when we get it up and running. So if you just do view and you do full, and then full screen. Okay, great, thanks. Okay, so as John said, my name's Callie England, and I am the founder and creator of Rawxies Living Foods. So 3 years ago, like I said, I was working full-time here in Kansas City as a creative director, and in my part-time, I started to do, on my free time, I created a blog called Rawxie to bust through preconceived notions that my friends and family had surrounding such a diet. I used bright colors, beautiful photography, and mainstream platings to really sell such a diet. The response was incredible. I think after a month of starting my blog, I started to have contacts from Food Buzz, Uncooking, gliving.com, and everyone started to give me national press, which really brought the blog kind of mainstream. People who would have never given this type of diet, a plant-based diet, the time of day, started to email me and say, all right, we get it, we get what you're saying, but you've got to make us something because we don't want to make anything. So I created a product called Rawxies, and Rawxies basically bridges the gap between an indulgent dessert and a nutritious food bar. I wanted it to be gluten-free, soy-free, dairy-free, low glycemic. All of these things were really important to me, but most importantly, it had to taste good and it had to be fun. So I began selling Rawxies online, and after a few months of sales, I decided that I was going to do this. I cut ties with my job, and in doing so, I packed my bags, said goodbye to 27 years of living in the Midwest, and drove a U-Haul halfway across the country to Sebastopol, California. There you go. I didn't know a single soul, but I had found a gluten-free kitchen, and I decided to jump on the opportunity. What California provided me was basically getting my foot in the door of a very competitive marketplace. It provided me with contacts that I otherwise wouldn't have had access to. And what I really loved about being in California was the challenge. If you can make it in California, it's the most dog-eat-dog, cutthroat, competitive area. I knew that if this product wasn't good, it was not going to make it in an area like San Francisco or Los Angeles. So in spring of last year, I began selling wholesale, door-to-door, face-to-face. I did whatever it took. At times, I would hop in a car, drive 8 hours, Santa Monica, Los Angeles, just for 5 minutes of FaceTime with a buyer. After about 4 months of selling, I was completely maxed out. I'd secured over 50 accounts from New York to California, and in doing so was awarded by a prestigious vegetarian publication, Veg News, Best New Product in Spring 2012. I was spending every waking moment rolling, cutting, and packaging Rawxies. And then the straw for me was when I got a phone call from Whole Foods in Northern California wanting Rawxies in all of the Bay Area stores, and I couldn't fill the orders. So I went back to the drawing board. It's like, what do I have to do to grow this company in an effective manner to support such growth? I took in consideration things like demographics, past sales, real estate, suppliers, online orders, and I thought about it. And then I realized I knew exactly what I had to do. I had a great product, I was gonna invest in the Rawxies brand, and I was gonna move it straight back to Kansas City. So thanks. And it was a great decision. So in November, we secured a space in the East Bottoms, and in December, we began our build out. It was really important for me to come back to Kansas City and really invest in our own manufacturing facility. It didn't make sense for me to move back and use a co-packer on the coast. I wanted my package to say, made in Kansas City. It's an extremely progressive food product, and it's so cool to talk to my customers right now, and they're like, what are you doing in Kansas City? Like, what were you thinking coming from like California to Kansas City, living food? So I love it because we have stores in Hawaii, New York, California, and when they flip over that package, it says made in Kansas City. And I love Kansas City, and I'm so proud to be able to have that on our packaging. This is just another photo of our space, and our adorable intern and business development head. This weekend, we ran our first production in the new space with our new packaging, and surprisingly, everything went great, no kinks. This is kind of just a photo of what our new packaging and product looks like. Our current team, myself, I'm the owner and founder. We have Micah Canfield, who's doing our head of business development. Christine Hegestad, she's head of community development. And we have two fabulous interns, Brett Crawford, University of Kansas, social media, and Mackenzie Marston, Kansas City Art Institute, graphic design. As we move forward, we are right now raising capital to secure one final piece of machinery. It's a VMAG 500, and it would increase our production by 1,000%. It would drive down production costs, and it would lessen human error, and it would save my hands. So if you have any advice or information or interest, we'd really appreciate if you would contact us. And here's kind of our contact information, myself and Micah, kind of the go-tos. And then I also just want to say, we're getting a new website. We have our website right now, though, has all the store listings for the Kansas City area, and those should all be replenished the end of next week. I think, right, Micah? Yeah, by next week. But we're going to keep updating that as we get new accounts, and we also still have all of our accounts, like I said, New York, Hawaii, and California. So thank you so much.
We'll have 30 accounts.
Okay. I think Micah just said that we have this week, we've secured 30 new accounts here in Kansas City. So we'll update the website and keep that all going. So very exciting. Yes?
How much is the VMAG?
The VMAG, it's $50,000. So moving back ahead, and I invested into this business, and I went ahead and decided to go with a packaging machine, a horizontal flow wrapper, which is also a hefty piece of machinery. But the reason I chose that is because it provided us with things such as nitrogen flushing, extended shelf life, et cetera. So that was the first priority. Yeah. I'm bank backed personally. I use a bank from my hometown of Jefferson City, Missouri, and it's a small bank. Yes?
You pointed out all of the different gluten-free and brands can describe something kind of food.
Living food?
Is that what you said?
Living food is,
I understand.
living food is a food that has not been heated above 105 degrees. And what that does is it preserves the enzymes, so the product is essentially already digested. You don't need your own enzymes. It's kind of a newer movement on the coast. It's really popular in East and West Coast. The benefits are it's the digestion, and it increases that. It's much easier. It's your body, whenever you eat what we, I guess, in the living food world call dead food, your body has to work to break it down. It's like your body, and that's a really hard process. I mean, when your body is breaking down food, it's not warding off disease. It's not getting, you use a lot of energy. So if the food already has that, your body can focus on other things. If you've got a cold, it can keep fighting the cold. And I mean, it normally takes 3 hours to break down food. So that's a lot of time for your body to be not working and just working on breaking down food.
Kelly,
Yes.
back here.
Oh, gotcha.
Just wanted to ask you, what is the next level that you want to get to?
National distribution on a consistent, level, being able to go back to those accounts such as Whole Foods, some of the distributors that have approached us and say, okay, we can actually handle this kind of distribution now.
Okay, what is it going to take in terms of dollars to get there?
A dollar amount?
Yeah.
About 100,000, I think, is what. I mean, we can go right now. We could do it right now. It's just that would really help us just drive down some production and move forward. But we've got it. We're good right now.
The question that begs asking, as far as my mind goes, is have you thought of Shark Tank?
I think who hasn't thought of Shark Tank?
I think you're a perfect candidate.
Yes. I think we've done some applying to Shark Tank. We have. So if anybody has any connections and wants to get us in, thank you. Yeah.
What are your key ingredients?
Our key ingredients. So most of the products, it's oat flour. It's a gluten-free oat flour. It's an almonds that are milled. It's just raw almonds that are milled to flour, so it's not a blanched almond flour. Desiccated coconut. That's an unsweetened, pure from the coconut. Palm sugar, which is a low glycemic sweetener. Date paste, wild crafted vanilla, which is scraped from the bean. We don't use any kind of extracts. We use essential oils, and then for the different flavors, we've cut our SKUs back to banana nut bread, mint chocolate chip, and lemon poppy seeds. So for those, it just depends. Lemon juice, lemon essential oil, peppermint essential oil.
Question from the live stream. Lakeitra from Katy, Texas wants to know, what is your background both professionally and academically?
So my background, I graduated, I did 3 years of undergrad at Baker University doing business and mass communications. I didn't love it. I wanted to be an artist. So I went to the Kansas City Art Institute, and I spent 4 years at the Kansas City Art Institute, and I got a degree in graphic design. Upon graduating, I worked for a company called Racket. It's an in-flight service product company, and I took on accounts like I've designed, I have products still on Lufthansa, Swiss Air, United Airlines, I have Austrian Air, and basically I was flying all over the world designing and sourcing products. So I would design it, I'd source it, and then I'd work direct with the airline. Yeah.
So listening to your story about driving 8 hours for 5 minutes FaceTime reminds me of hearing about the guys that did Teva.
Uh-huh.
You know, the sandals, they did the same thing, like they lived out of their car.
Yeah.
So you're clearly getting it done from a grassroots level. What kind of, I guess, advice would you give to other people who are trying to bust ass to do the same thing that you're doing?
So I think the number one thing that I can always tell people is find other people who are doing what you're doing and ask them, because it'll save you a lot of time and energy. I've made some mistakes, but I've also had some mistakes prevented by finding people. That's what I loved about the Bay Area. Is my neighbors in my kitchen in Sebastopol owned 18 rabbits. My other neighbors were the ex-owners of Adwala. So being able to tap into those resources and saying, what are you doing? Because then you can get, and we're all very open. That was one of the things I love about coming back is if anybody has any questions, I'm more than willing to help you. But I would just start asking people, and people are so friendly. They want to help other food entrepreneurs.
Question from Mindy in Costa Rica. How did you come up with your recipes?
It was like mad scientists in the kitchen. And I hated Lara bars because they were wet. I don't like my hands to be, I just don't like to touch that kind of stuff. And I thought, something is, why can't it be like a drier but still moist bar? And it was really hard because it has to, right now we sheet everything and there's no gluten. It basically is like a Lara bar mixture, but we have the oat flour. So I just was go to my kitchen every night, and I think I've probably done 200 different recipe formulations in about a 2-month period whenever I was creating it, and fall apart, etc. Oh, and Micah loves that. To date, I've used a cookie cutter, and I've pressed a cookie cutter down on a sheeter over 100,000 times. So I was like, this past weekend, I was like, oh, my hand's not used to this. What almost stopped me? I think it's whenever I got an order. I took on all Organic Avenues in New York City. They called me. I didn't even seek them out. They found out about my product online. And Organic Avenues, there's 9 of them in Manhattan. And I called and I had a talk with the buyer, and she's like, we want your product. I was like, great, so excited. 2 hours later, I got an email, and I'm working in a corner of a kitchen. I don't, just started selling, maybe a month into it, and it's for a whole pallet. And that's what almost broke me, because for 2 weeks straight, day and night, I was in a kitchen just cutting, and then I had to find a pallet, and then I had to call shippers, and I'm like dragging a pallet through a pallet yard. I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm like, where there's a will, there's a way, and I'll get this done. So that's what I did, and that almost broke me. Yeah.
Give advice going forward from that.
The biggest mistake? I made a few mistakes. I think it was, I really wish, I think maybe planned a little bit better, learned the industry a little bit better. But at the same time, if I would have learned the industry, I wouldn't have jumped into it. Like if I would have known what I was getting myself into, I'd be at a desk job right now. No, I'm kidding. But I think maybe learning a little bit more how much it truly was going to cost. This is a very, very expensive business. How much time that you have to actually produce the product too. You don't just like invoice sell. It's like, oh wait, what am I selling? I'm selling something I'm making. So just kind of really tapping into, like I said, more food entrepreneurs and saying, what does this look like? But then I'm really glad I didn't. So now I can stand here. So. We good?
Okay, quick question. You moved back into Kansas City now.
Mm-hmm.
And remind me how long you've been here now?
About 2 months.
About 2 months, so not too long. What are you seeing from Kansas City? And then what can we as a community do for you? I know you're obviously looking for specific equipment and things like that, but what are the connections that you need to make? What are the resources that we can provide? I mean, you've got a room full of 200 and then an overflow of 200 entrepreneurs listening to you and ready to help you out. What can we do for you?
Yeah, so the one thing, coming back to Kansas City, when we tested our stores in Kansas City, they sold out faster than in any of our stores on the coast, and that was a very big driving factor to come back. What I realized is that the Midwest is really ready for this type of food. A lot of people are switching to gluten-free diets, and this is an emerging trend here in the Midwest, whereas on the coast, it's just a trend, and you're fighting with like 50 other companies that are doing exactly what you're doing. But here, you're the only one doing it. So what we're really looking for are connections. If you know someone who has a store, anything like that. If you know someone who is in the distribution industry, especially here in the Midwest, because I have kind of my contacts on the coast. But we're really looking, it's such a new thing here in the Midwest. So it's a little bit tricky. We don't know who those go-to distributors are. We don't know who the go-to buyers are. We mostly know our coast, but not so much in the Midwest. So if you have any information on that or leads or anything like that, we would love that. Mm-hmm.
Just a quick FYI, American Italian Pasta is relocating most all of their staff to St. Louis. There are a ton of people that have all of those connections and all of the experience. So just hop on LinkedIn and you'll probably find 20 to 30 people that are actively looking for opportunities or would have all of those connections and I think would extend the goodwill of Casey to help you.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
I have take your product to the dogfight, learn the survival techniques, and then innovate in old markets such as Kansas City. What would you add to that?
Sorry, what was that again?
Okay. Take your product to the dogfight, as in the West Coast. Learn those survival techniques, as in how the other entrepreneurs work in that dog-eat-dog market, and then innovate in old markets where, in this case, gluten-free is a new trend that even I've just recently heard about.
And then what comes next?
Not what comes next, but does that sound about right?
That sounds perfect. And then I'd add and then blow it up friggin' huge and have Kansas City be the town with the biggest gluten-free product. Mm-hmm. Yes.
With the being that it's basically a natural-based product.
Correct.
What is your lead time that you need for production, and then what is your shelf life once the product is manufactured?
Because we're having we still are having, we don't keep a large inventory because we sell everything as soon as we make it. We're still getting that many orders that we're just selling and making. But you say, what's the shelf life? It's a 6-month shelf life, and that's without the nitrogen flushings, and we're kind of doing right now, I'm testing a few different gases, a CO2 kind of blend with the nitrogen, and then we'll go back to the MU food department, University of Missouri food department, and we'll have them retest that to see what kind of shelf life we're getting from there. Yeah.
When you were launching your blog, was it primarily the design that got the press to pick it up?
I think 100%, because being a designer and being in design school, we always talked about companies that were investing in design and they were getting an 80% higher return. And I thought, I can sell this. This is all it is I need to convince people, that they should eat this way, that they'd want to eat this way. And so it was really a design aspect, and I think a lot of it had to do with my photography and the way I'd plate the food. But then people who would try the recipes, I'd get emails and they loved the recipes as well. But it was really, you've got to like hook them and bring them in, and then you've got them. So I think it was primarily design.
And we have time for one more question.
Sorry, go ahead.
Did you reach out to all those media outlets, or did they find you?
A lot of them found me, and it's just, I've reached out to some, but I was always nervous to get myself in over my head, but then people would find me. Oh, you're fine. Thank you.
That is awesome. Thank you, Callie. Give
Oh,
her a
thank
round
you
of
so
applause.
much. Thanks. We don't have enough production.
All right. Well, we still have one more announcement. Tom Roon here is going to give us an announcement about a couple of big things going on.
Thank you. First thing I wanted to mention, we had talked about this at prior 1 Million Cups, the bus for South by Southwest. If there are people still looking, as I understand it, we still have some room.
Yes, Aaron, just real quick, I'll run up here.
Few seats.
We have discounted tickets at $6.95. So I will put you. Send me an email. I'll put my email address right up here. So if you're looking for discounted tickets to South by Southwest, we also have room on the bus, and it is a first come first serve. So send me an email, and we also have a block of rooms down there. So we also have lodging available. It's not paid for, but it's available, which if we've been to South by Southwest, that's a big issue. So I'm going to write my email up here, send it to me, and we'll go from there.
Thanks, DJ. One of the things I wanted to take just 2 seconds, everybody that's been part of this and has seen the evolution of 1 Million Cups, you understand this great phenomenon that's been happening here in Kansas City. And what happens when this kind of activity comes together are things that you don't even anticipate. And I remember a couple months ago, this crazy guy stood up and said, I want to buy a house and I want to let hackers come to my house. And Ben, are you here? He's probably busy because for those of you who may not have heard, there was a big announcement that went out yesterday that Brad Feld, of Techstar fame, has purchased a home in the Hacker Village. Obviously, for those of you who know the kind of work that he does, he's offered and started a challenge for startups that want to come into his house. This is the kind of stuff that's really building the ecosystem. It's really what builds the community. And it happens by bringing people together like we've done here, and it's paying rewards on that. So I wanted to share with everybody the good news in case you hadn't seen the release. We now have Brad Feld in the house, and thanks to everybody at Kaufman and everybody in the extended 1 Million Cups community and family, Adam and other guys, everybody that made it happen, Ben in particular, great job, and just the first of many more great things to come. So goodbye, everybody. Have a good day.
That's pretty much all that we have for today. Thanks again for coming out. Thanks for supporting the community. And Kansas City, you guys are great.